start with Rueben Owens. We mentioned the coaching change as a possible factor, but what ultimately drew him to Texas A&M?
Well, I think ultimately it was the coaching change that really put that in motion. Now, look, when he committed to Louisville back in the summer, there were people that projected that he would ultimately end up in Texas A&M's class when said and done. So I don't think that's many are surprised in the end that he's going with Texas A&M, a program that he nearly committed to well before he committed to Louisville as well. So, but certainly it helped accelerate the process that there was going to be a flip with Scott Satterfield taking the job and the coaching turnover on the staff. But he told Jimbo Fisher on Wednesday that he was in the fold, and then announced later that night, giving Texas A&M, a young man that's rushed for over 7,000 yards in his high school career, over 100 touchdowns, and a guy that I think can be an instant impact player for them in College Station. As they close, they're going to be fun to watch here down the stretch here. Pound for pound, guys, it's the top 5 recruiting class right now for Texas A&M. Rueben Owens, one of the jewels.
Yeah, Steve, obviously this is a byproduct also of Louisville recruiting well earlier in the recruiting cycle, but I know a lot of fans might be sweating bullets right now considering some of the names that are at the top of their commit list. What do you expect to happen with names like DeAndre Moore and Pierce Clarkson and maybe some of the other top commits that Louisville has in their class right now?
Well, DeAndre Moore is one that's been on flip watch for a while as well. Took official visits to Georgia and Texas. I've heard good things about Texas's position as of late there with DeAndre Moore. So we'll see if Louisville can hang on to him. Pierce Clarkson, our colleague Greg Biggins, national analyst who's based in LA and has done a lot of Bosco games on TV, says that Jeff Brohm's going to be out at Clarkson State Championship game on Saturday. Certainly there's some schools that have reached out to him, but I think that he is excited about the hiring of Brohm, and how can you not? He's showcased some of the finest offenses in college football year in and year out. And I think Jeff Brohm is a guy that college coaches use as a resource when they're trying to elevate their own offenses. So if you're Pierce Clarkson, you're certainly excited about Jeff Brohm coming to Louisville. And I don't know if that's going to. I don't know if anything's going to change with his recruitment over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Brohm, within just the last hour, officially named the next head coach at Louisville. He returns home, got a great track record at Purdue. You mentioned the success there on offense, but what kind of recruiter is he?
I think that, he's a guy that's really good in the living room. If you get in front of Jeff Brohm, you can see the energy and passion that he has for football and his team, and he's a player's coach. People like playing for him, and so I think when you get on campus and you get around the players, you get a good feel for the culture and the vibe that he has in the locker room and the way that the players enjoy playing for him. Stanquan Clark's another guy I wanted to mention as a high-profile recruit in Louisville's class that a lot of people are certainly trying to kick tires on here down the stretch. I talked to a source earlier in the week that thought that he would still ultimately end up in the fold for Louisville, but there's several schools still trying to make a push here late.
Yeah, Steve, obviously a loss for Purdue with Jeff Brohm taking over at Louisville. But what kind of coach does Purdue need now to replace him?
Well, there's so many good candidates out there. So while I'm about to highlight one, that doesn't mean that I think it's this man and nobody else. But Michigan offensive coordinator Sharon Moore, I think, would be an exciting hire for Purdue. I think he's one of the best recruiters in the country. He's obviously one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, as Michigan won the Joe Moore Award last year. And now he's moved in to the position as Michigan's play caller. And I think that Michigan's offense has become one of the more exciting ones in the Big Ten. I think that this is a guy, I believe I said on this show a few weeks ago, would eventually become a household name around the country as far as college football coaches go. And I think this is a coach that Purdue should at least look into, interview, and get to know, because Sharon Moore is incredibly well respected amongst his peers. The players love him. Great recruiter, obviously great offensive line coach, showing well in his first year as the play caller for the Maize and Blue. Purdue should take a look at Sharon Moore.
All right, guys, we took about a 5-minute break from talking about Florida, so let's go back to the Sunshine State. One of the biggest official visit weekends is about to take place in Gainesville, and the list is highlighted by Okunlola, who we mentioned. The crystal ball favors Miami, but this is not his first trip to UF. So, Steve, where do the Gators stand in his recruitment?
Oh man, they're gaining momentum fast here going into his college commitment next week. I think that Florida's got an excellent chance. He loved his visit there a couple weeks ago. He's really clicked with offensive line coach Rob Sale. Got a chance to spend a lot of time with Billy Napier on his last visit, and he likes the trajectory of Florida's program. Certainly, they have a big need on the offensive line. They're trying to finish strong. That's one of their big positions of need as they try and finish with a top 10 class, currently sitting number 11. And I wouldn't be surprised if when Samson Okunlola commits next week, he's in the fold for the Gators. Now, Miami's certainly not going away. They've impressed him a ton. Mario Cristobal and company have been near the top of his list, as you said, for much of the process. But Florida definitely making things interesting at the very least here at the end.
A lot of really fun recruiting battles between Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal. And Napier has a chance with a number of other high-profile targets this weekend, Steve. A huge weekend for the Gators down in Gainesville. You take into account Mark Fletcher, the former Ohio State commit, and there's a few other players that are currently committed to other schools that will be down at Florida. Who will you have your eye on?
Yeah, Caden Jones is a 6'8", 300-plus offensive lineman from the state of Louisiana that Billy Napier and company got in early on. I logged a 24/7 Sports crystal ball for the Gators this week for Caden after talking to him. So if they can add Okunlola and Caden Jones to what's already in the fold, that would be one of the best offensive line hauls in the SEC. Jaden Platt's a tight end that's been committed to Stanford since last December, guys. But with David Shaw retiring, it's opened the door for schools like Florida and Texas A&M to come in. And he's a high academic kid, and I think Florida, that's another thing that they'll look to sell this weekend with their prestigious public school academics. It's some of the best in the country there. So I think Florida can make a move for him. And then John Walker is a top 247 defensive lineman that's committed to UCF that Florida's gotten to campus several times in the fall. They love him. They already have a very talented defensive line haul, but you can't have enough big bodies up front that can be difference makers. Florida's defensive line was subpar by Florida standards the last few years. John Walker, major target for them as they try and finish out this class.
All right, Steve, it almost feels like schools are having to re-recruit players who enter the transfer portal. I mean, we have visits, offers, just like they were in high school. So I want to dip into the portal talk real quick with you. Former Virginia corner Fentrell Cypress, currently our number 2 player overall in the portal. He's been targeted by schools like UCLA, Ohio State, USC, Florida State, Auburn. That's almost all the schools in the country. A lot of other ones. What's the latest with his portal recruitment?
Well, last I talked to his camp yesterday, a visit was in the works for UCLA this weekend. Things could really accelerate by then, but the Bruins have done a good job of getting in early with this young man. And so sounds like they're a contender. I think he's high on Ohio State. I think LSU is a program that's made an impression. Texas has been in early. Tennessee had a long conversation with Mike Reed and Clemson. Florida State went in home. A lot of people swinging on the number 1 ranked player in the 24/7 Sports transfer portal rankings.
All right, Steve, thank you so much for all of that great intel. Be sure to check out the Wiltfong Whip Around on Mondays and Fridays. And you want more Steve? Well, you are in luck. He will be a massive part of our National Signing Day show, so join him and all of us on December 21st right here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page.